Ferrari is very active, that must be acknowledged. The SF-25 single-seater will appear in Monte Carlo with a livery dedicated to the 75-year collaboration with Shell, the Dutch multinational that has launched a very important partnership with the Maranello team, going well beyond the commercial aspect and becoming strategic when e-fuels start playing a key role in the red car's performance. The team's ability to make the most of every marketing opportunity always keeps the Prancing Horse in the spotlight. The same cannot be said for the speed with which the Maranello single-seater is developed by the technical department. At Imola, we saw a rear wing with a beam wing taken from the SF-24's inventory, and a similar operation will be repeated in Monaco, reusing existing high-downforce profiles that will not affect the budget cap. The real updates will come more gradually. At the Circuit de Catalunya in Spain, we will see the new front wing able to pass the stricter flexibility checks. Some teams, like Mercedes, already use that specification in Emilia-Romagna, while the floor evolution will follow shortly after, as a prelude to the long-awaited rear suspension upgrade. The Ferrari seen at Imola was unquestionably the car with the stiffest setup and the highest ride height. The introduction of new suspension arms in the second half of July should allow the SF-25 car to be much less problematic under braking. The rear end, especially during load changes, tends to lift, losing downforce precisely when maximum vertical load is needed. Since redoing the carbon gearbox casing is off the table due to cost constraints, Ferrari's engineers and technicians can only move the suspension mounts to parts of the transmission casing that are rigid enough to bear structural loads. The talk is of moving some linkages by 20 mm or slightly more, whereas an internal redesign would require resources and time they do not have. The SF-25, therefore, is expected to turn a corner before the British Grand Prix, as reported by various Italian news media outlets. The full aerodynamic upgrade package should be ready by Silverstone, and in technical director Loic Serra's plans, there is hope to finally put a red car on track, capable of closing the gap to the leaders. Obviously, no one in the Ferrari racing department is still talking about the championship. That would be heresy. But the aim is to return Ferrari to the performance level it deserves, pulling it out of the black hole it has fallen into. The new rear suspension is the result of highly detailed simulator work, followed by testing on dynamic rigs. Before final approval, the team wants to be certain the modification delivers the expected outcome, and it would not be surprising if the design has been updated during testing. All the more so because the insights gathered during this thorough study phase will be very useful for the 678 project as well. The Maranello team is also trying to understand another key aspect of this season's performance: managing the rear brake ducts to control tire temperatures under traction and avoid the inevitable overheating that causes sliding. The qualifying crisis seen at Imola very likely stems from this area. The red car is too sensitive to changes in track surface temperature, and setup corrections often do not meet the demands. Ferrari, fully aware of the challenges, has not lost heart and is seeking redemption. But before the turnaround arrives, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton will need to remain very patient. Looking ahead to the next round of the 2025 Formula One Championship, McLaren faces its best opportunity in the last 10 years, an unmissable chance to claim the victory it has been missing in Monte Carlo since 2008. The MCL-39 single-seater is the benchmark on the grid for low-speed corners, the same ones that Ferrari struggles with. In Monaco, slow speed dominates, but the Principality track is an anomaly of its own, where even Max Verstappen and the Mercedes cars can make a difference. It's like riding a bike in the living room. This famous phrase by Nelson Piquet describes the Monaco Grand Prix, a metaphor highlighting its narrow, slow, and winding nature. According to data, Monaco has the lowest qualifying average speed of the year, just over 170 km per hour, 45 less than Shanghai, the slowest track so far this season. 7 out of 12 corners are taken at speeds below 100 km per hour, making mechanical grip from the suspension as important as aerodynamic downforce, if not more so. Traction out of the corners is what makes the difference, one of McLaren's greatest strengths as the championship leader. At Monaco, the MCL-39 will run in its ideal setup, able to exploit its high downforce package without paying the usual drag penalty that costs precious tenths on straights elsewhere. Watch out also for Mercedes, which showed strong rear stability on the tight turns in Bahrain and the slow second sector in Miami, emerging as the second-best car behind McLaren. Charles Leclerc warned that Monaco will show all the weaknesses of the Ferrari SF-25 car, aware of the Maranello team's difficulties in slow corners, unlike the winning car of the 2024 Formula One edition. However, slow speed is not everything in Monaco. The Principality is a unique track where cars and tires operate under very different conditions. In the fastest corner, Tabacayo, speeds are only around 180 kilometers per hour, showing a narrow speed range. It is easier to find a compromise in car balance across different speeds, unlike Miami, where the drop from 250 to 50 kilometers per hour highlighted McLaren's long operating window of performance. Monte Carlo is a one-of-a-kind circuit, too peculiar to predict outcomes based only on slow speed analysis. Cars run with higher ride height than average to protect the floor from road bumps and use more aggressive camber and toe angles to exploit tires differently. Teams also use special brake cooling ducts to cool the brakes properly despite the low airflow at slow speeds. In tight corners, wider steering angles are required, forcing mechanical changes to the front axle. The power unit also plays an important role. Despite the shortest time spent at full throttle all year, only 42% of the lap compared to 68% at Imola. It is not so much about peak power, but about torque delivery at low speed, especially from the hybrid system. Ferrari's power units stand out here, with an aggressive engine braking that provides extra rotation in tight corners. Another factor to consider is the ability to attack curbs and bumps without strong aerodynamic stability, something Max Verstappen openly complained about last year. This is also a small concern for McLaren, which already in 2024 was not strong on curbs, a weakness not improved by the MCL-39's extreme suspension setup. A major novelty this year is the rule requiring teams to make 2 mandatory pit stops during the race, dry or wet, to liven up what is often a flat and monotonous race. This will add a headache for strategists, with the constant risk of a safety car or red flag, and the added difficulty of less accurate GPS tracking due to the buildings and terrain of the Principality. None of this changes the fact that the weekend will be largely decided on Saturday. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur admitted they were worried, expressing concern over the Maranello team's difficulty in extracting peak grip from the new Pirelli soft tires. The French manager explained that the 3.337-kilometer Circuit de Monaco in Monte Carlo would be a completely different scenario in terms of preparation, tire management, and other important factors, adding that they would start from a blank sheet. The key on the flying lap will be heating the tires in time for Saint-Devote and keeping them alive through the Rascasse and Antony Nogues sections. This crucial task will be even harder this year with the introduction of the new ultra-soft C6 compound developed by Pirelli, which debuted at the Imola circuit in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last weekend.